alarm clock would go off very early every single morning. I'd wake up, I'd check my phone immediately for any emails that had come in, and then it'd be shower, shave, dress in my full suit, and jump in a car. And that car to me represented my first kind of drudgery task for the day. It made me feel trapped because I had done all the right things. I had gone to college. I had been an officer in the Army for 8 years. I had gone to corporate finance. I had worked with John Hancock. I had done commercial real estate. I had done all the right things. And now here I was stuck on this hamster wheel going nowhere, inspiring nobody, especially not myself, and just feeling like I was trapped in this world that I had created. And it was this sinking pit in my stomach. And I just was wondering why. Why have I not found what I'm looking for when I've done everything that I was told I was supposed to do? Here I am, years later, on this same hamster wheel, feeling like I'm even further behind where I thought I was 5 years ago. And this sinking, mundane feeling would just not go away. It was ever present with me. And I just wanted freedom. And I just wanted freedom. I just wanted to do work that I was inspired by. And I just wanted to do work that inspired others. So there I was, stuck in traffic again, but at least I had my podcast, or so I thought. Then, before I knew it, poof, my last podcast had ended, and I scrolled through my iPod, and there was nothing left. And I thought to myself, man, I have to sit here for another 45 minutes in traffic with nothing but the radio. I was devastated. But at that moment, at that devastation moment, that is truly when my aha moment happened. That's when the light bulb went off. I said, what? There's not a 7-day-a-week podcast. There should be a podcast that comes out every single day of the week that interviews inspiring and successful entrepreneurs. And that's when I had my light bulb moment. I said, there should be someone that creates it. Why not me? I know all these great entrepreneurs who are hosts of their own shows. I could be just like them. I can do this. So I had all of these thoughts swirling in my head. Am I going to fail? Am I going to look like a fool in front of my friends and family who up to this point had only seen me as a success? And these were real fears. I used to wake up sweating in the middle of the night saying, what am I doing? This is insane. And the only way that I would be able to go back to sleep was by convincing myself that when I woke up in the morning, I was gonna give it all up and go crawling back to my job in commercial real estate. But luckily for me, I would wake up in the morning, the sun would be shining, and I'd say, you know what? I'm gonna give it one more day. One more day, I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna learn what it takes to upload a media file. I'm gonna learn how to create great audio. I'm gonna learn what it takes to be an interviewer, a host of a show. And every single day, I would get shot down. I would struggle. I would come up against another wall that would knock me down, but I kept getting up. I kept taking one step forward for every half step that I was taking back. And slowly but surely, I saw myself turning into a podcaster right before my very own eyes. And it was a slow process, but it did come. And I was able to continue to move forward until the launch of Entrepreneur on Fire on September 22nd, because at that point, there was no turning back. Fire Nation, look what we've created. Look at the inspiration we spread throughout this world. A podcast 7 days a week, interviewing the most inspiring and successful entrepreneurs in the world. Seth Godin, Guy Kawasaki, Tim Ferriss, Gary Vaynerchuk. We are listened to in over 145 countries, millions and millions of unique downloads. Fire Nation, look at what we've created, look at what we've done, and we've just started.
Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome to the stage your 2026 Podcast Hall of Fame Master of Ceremonies, John Lee Dumas.
Well, hello. And what's crazy about that video, that was actually done 10 years ago. So when I said that we were just getting started. We were just getting started. That was at about 1,000 episodes. Now we're over 5,127, and it's just amazing to see everybody in the room here who's been part of somebody's podcasting journey. So welcome, fellow podcasters, friends, and family who are all here today to celebrate the Hall of Fame induction ceremony. I mean, this is where we honor the legends, the voices, the builders, the risk takers, those who turned this thing that we call podcasting into truly a global movement. The Podcast Hall of Fame began back in 2015. Every year since then, it has been an amazing place to honor these legends. It's been a reminder to something simple and beautiful. Podcasting starts with one human voice. A voice that you hear on a late night drive, a voice that gives you courage before taking that big leap, a voice that helps you laugh, learn, cry, level up. And tonight we hit that pause button on purpose to celebrate the people who built this foundation and push podcasting forward for all of us. A huge thank you specifically to Podfest, not just for being the venue for tonight, but for sponsoring and supporting this celebration. Podfest continues to be a true home for creators and community. We also want to recognize and support Blueberry Podcasting, podnews.net, the Podcasting Professionals Association, Passion Struck Network events. You show up, you support, you help make nights like this possible. So thank you. It's an honor to follow in the footsteps of Dr. Drew and John R. Miles, hosts of the Passion Struck podcast, who set a high bar on what a night like this can become. And now, the moment that we've all been waiting for, the 2026 Hall of Fame inductees. Ariel Nissenblatt, James Cridlin, Dan Carlin, Julie Samuels, Carrie Hoffman, Mark Asquith, Paul Colligan, Sarah Van Moselle, and Veronica Belmont. We're also honoring Dan Miller as a memorial inductee, and his lovely family's here today. Lovely family, lovely man. And we'll close with a special tribute to Todd Cochrane, a 2015 inductee whose impact continues to ripple through this amazing podcast community. So here's how the evening is going to flow. Each inductee is going to be introduced by someone who knows their journey, their influence, and their story. And then we'll hear directly from the inductees, either live or by video, because podcasting has never been about or has never been limited by geography. It's always been bigger than just one room. So tonight, let's be fully present. Let's celebrate. Let's remember that everything we build next stands on the shoulders of those we honor now. So without any further ado, let's get started.
Welcome to the stage, from Tink Media, Lauren Passell, to introduce our first 2026 inductee, Ariel Nissenblatt.
Hi. No one understands podcasting more than Ariel Nissenblatt. She understands, she is a creator. She founded Earbuds Podcasting almost 7 years ago. So she has been helping us solve the discoverability problem. She connects listeners to podcasters. She understands what podcasters go through. She understands the tech side. She worked at CastBox and Descript and Squadcast. She understands all that tech stuff. She understands the business side. She knows the entire history of podcasting because she's a history nerd, but she also understands, what was acquired when, because she's fascinated in it. She's fascinated with this stuff. And she remembers everything. She remembers every single who works where, who worked where, when, and their middle names, and their dog's middle name, and where they were born, and the taco restaurant that was popular where they were born, because she remembers everything she's met about everyone. It's freakish. So she has all these skills, and it'd be a lot for any of us to master one of these skills. She's mastered all of them because she's so interested and so authentically in love with this industry. And, I think she should be mayor of podcasting because there's elected officials that promise to do those things, and they do not. Ariel does. She does everything she promises to do. And, all that stuff is really great, and all the things that I just said are reasons that could put her into the Podcast or Hall of Fame. But just on a personal note, I've noticed, first of all, nobody loves podcasters and podcasting like Ariel does. If you've ever talked to her in one-on-one, you see this. It doesn't matter if you have 100 downloads an episode or 100,000 downloads an episode. She will take time out of her day and sit down with you and help you because she wants to. She won't hold any secrets. She shares everything she knows. She shares her entire heart with everyone. And that's what this industry is all about to me, and I see her doing it for everyone. And for me, personally, I don't have a sister, and Ariel is the closest thing I've ever had to a sister. And she makes me feel so loved. She's brought so much joy to my life, and she's given me confidence. And I see her, what she does to me, and how she makes me feel, and how she makes me love my work. And she does it to everybody. I see her doing this to everyone, so I love seeing the feeling that she gives me amplified every time I see her talking to anybody. So I can't wait to watch it continue to grow and see what else she's able to do. She's so young, and she's here because she loves podcasters and she loves podcasts. And Ariel, podcasters and podcasts love you back, but I love you the most. Lauren Passell loves you the most, and come get your beautiful award. You deserve it so much. I love you.
Thank you so much for having me. First, the feeling of somebody talking about you in front of a lot of people is very strange, and I just want to acknowledge that before I begin. Lauren, first of all, thank you so much. For those that don't know Lauren, just quick things about her. I pretty much wrote the same thing about her that she said about me. She listens to more podcasts than anyone I know. And I just love her, and she is one of my best friends in the world through podcasts, and that's really what I'm going to talk about today. I am really, really honored to be inducted today. I think that everyone does a little daydream about what they might say if they were accepting an award, so I get to dream aloud for a moment, so strap in. We'll be right back with the Podcast Hall of Fame ceremony, but first, some ads. This podcast is sponsored by Ariel Nissenblatt's acceptance speech. She wishes to thank everyone who came before her and who has worked to make this industry such a warm, welcoming, and nurturing space to grow and build a career. When she first got started in the podcast space, she didn't know anyone at all. I'm going to switch to first person now if that's okay, but I will get back to the ad read. I started listening to podcasts back many years ago, but not in 2004 when they really came out. It was after the serial boom for me. I had moved to Los Angeles in 2017, and I was stuck in traffic all the time. And I was never bored because I was able to listen to podcasts. And I wanted to replicate that feeling over and over and over again for myself, but also for other people. And after a few months, I decided that I was going to make it my business to get a job in the podcast industry. While I was looking for full-time jobs, I used the entrepreneurial tactics that I was learning through the podcast that I was listening to start my own podcast-related ventures. I started a newsletter, Earbuds Podcast Collective, in 2017, and I run it to this day. It goes out every single Sunday, and I have never missed a Sunday. it is the coolest thing I've ever done. And I'm really, really proud of it because it has gotten me every single job, every single opportunity that I've had in the podcast space since then. And it was all because I started listening to podcasts, felt entrepreneurial, decided to take a leap, and like John Lee Dumas said in his video, I said, why not me? Why don't I try that thing? I also owe a lot of my early career, and still now to this day, to how nice everybody was when I started reaching out to make podcast friends back in 2016, 2017. When I was in that career discovery phase, I was trying to find out anything I possibly could about the audio world, and I reached out blindly to people that I saw on Twitter who I thought were interesting, that worked in podcasting, and I just asked them for a few minutes of their time. Or I listened to the end credits of a podcast that I loved, and I reached out to those people on Twitter or on email. I really worked to find those people and to invite them for coffee and ask them about their journey. And everybody replied and was kind. And I don't think that this collaborative and generous and kind nature is true of so many professional industries. I took a lot of notes during this time, and I wasn't even sure what I wanted to do within podcasting, but over time, my area of focus became clearer and clearer, and I have evolved a few times since. I've done marketing. I've worked directly with creators by working with podcast apps and podcast recording apps and things like that. But my entire career in podcasting thus far has been built on collaboration and giving, and my newsletter runs on that premise as well. My goal is to help your podcast reach listeners and to help listeners find their next favorite show, because I really think that listening is something that helps us build empathy and ultimately just helps us learn about people and places that we were not exposed to before. So I owe my entire career to collaboration. I owe my career to the friendships that I've made bonding over a shared love of podcasts and the creators who make them. I also see podcasts as a big part of my journey in gaining confidence in myself. I was not much of a reader growing up, and because of that, I kind of felt like I was behind in grasping concepts. And when I discovered that I could listen to podcasts for educational purposes and for entertainment and for everything, I finally felt caught up to everybody else, and it makes me want to give that feeling to other people. So people ask me what makes me passionate about the podcast space, and that is a lot of it. It's that I feel confident, and I'm growing in confidence day after day. I think it's always something that I'm working on. And I'm just really, really honored to be here and to be inducted among this iconic group of individuals and the folks who came before me. Seeing my name listed alongside all of you is very much, I can't imagine how this happened. When I went to my first podcast event in 2017 and spent money out of pocket and didn't know when it was gonna come back to me, and shook hands and hoped for the best. So it's nuts to be up here. To wrap up, I'm going to switch back to ad read mode. That's why I love working with our advertiser, Ariel's Acceptance Speech. You too can enjoy Ariel's Acceptance Speech at a discount just for my listeners. Head to arielnisblatt.com and enter code ILOVEPODCASTS at checkout. Again, that's I Love Podcasts.
Now will you please welcome to the stage Rob Greenlee, Chair of Podcast Hall of Fame and 2017 inductee, to introduce our second 2026 inductee, James Cridland.
First of all, I want to say thank you so much for everybody being here. It's a great honor to do this Hall of Fame. I've been in the podcasting space a long time, but that's not what I'm up here for. So what I'm up here for is to honor someone who has done something deceptively hard in the media landscape, and that is to earn trust of an entire industry, and he does that every single day, work day, I should say. James Cridlin is the editor and publisher of podnews.net, and he does a daily briefing newsletter that goes out to 30,000 plus people in the podcasting space, from podcasters to executives to agencies to advertisers, and many other startup companies and other people that are curious about podcasting. And he's really brought the world to the world of podcasting. That's something that didn't exist prior to James Cridlin, so that's part of his legacy, is to make this medium truly global. So James has a strong background in audio and podcasting, going back many, many years, back to the same time frame that I got started to some degree. His work in audio, starting in 1989 across radio, digital, and the internet, pushed the medium forward, turning issues and deceptive practices and other changes into clarity. So James has a long history of being like a radio futurologist and really being at the cutting edge of what's happening in the digital media landscape in places like at Virgin Radio, at the BBC. So he's had his fingers in this for a long time, and he's helped radio navigate its choppy waters for many years. So James became something very, very rare, a steady signal in the noisy space that we know as podcasting. He created a useful newsletter that was widely read, and I think to some degree was rather shocking for a while that this medium was so successful outside of the US. Because this medium really started as a US dominant medium, even though it was deceptive how much was going on outside of the US, and James was able to, show us all. I mean, I felt that that was really a big vulnerability with the podcasting space, is that it didn't have a global view. But James changed all that. And James has been recognized by the Podcast Academy for the first International Impact Award. So this isn't the first time that James has been recognized for his significant contributions. And the Hall of Fame is not a popularity contest. It's really a testament to lasting contribution to people that keep the medium honest, keep people informed, keep people moving forward. And James is a testament to that. And so with great honor, I've known James since 2017 myself. Welcome to the Podcast Hall of Fame, James, and congratulations. So come on up.
I'll grab a microphone. That's a thing. Yeah, I see the problem, Ariel. I'm going to put it there. I think that's the plan. Thank you so much. I hope I hold this together. Thank you so much, Rob. Thank you to the Hall of Fame judging committee as well. This is my 37th year in the audio industry, officially. Although actually I did run a pirate radio station when I was at school, so I think it's probably my 40th year, which is a little bit scary. And I'll show you how old I am. My first job in radio was to carry the mobile phone and the reel-to-reel tape recorder for one of our radio journalists. In those days, they were two big, heavy suitcases, because that's how old I am. Now, of course, we all walk around with a phone and an audio recorder in our pockets. In 1994, I was a radio DJ, and I was doing the evening show on a radio station in England to 1.2 million people. I was the market leader at the time, which, to be frank, wasn't that difficult, to be honest. But anyway, one day for fun, I thought, well, I'm having fun here. Why don't I make a big thing out of my birthday and see if my listeners will send me presents? So for the next couple of weeks, I was there going, not long until March the 18th, it's still time for you to go out and buy a present and send it in, and here's the address. As an obvious joke, right? But when my birthday came along, I got presents from people who I had never met before, people who just listened to me. And I thought, well, that's fairly amazing. Strangers came to the radio station. 3 girls who'd driven for half an hour to give me a present. No, it wasn't that. It was astonishing. Anyway, the next year, I was still there, but I had realized that being a radio DJ is actually a very dull job. And I suddenly realized, no, I want to go back to doing things that are a bit more skilled and a bit more fun. So I was keen to move on. So I didn't know if I'd still be on the air on my birthday, so I didn't mention my birthday at all. This was 1994 now, and my birthday came round again, but I hadn't mentioned it at all this year because I was leaving and I didn't know if I'd still be there. And so when I got into the radio station on my birthday, I went down to the mailbox to see if I had any mail. I had 5 cards. 5 people had copied over from one paper diary to the next paper diary, my birthday. 5 people had gone out and bought a card. 5 people had gone out and bought a stamp. 5 people had gone out into the rain to post that card to me. That's the power of what audio does, the power of what we do, the power of podcasting. I wrote my first RSS feed in 2005, which was the first daily podcast from a radio station in the UK. That was the first RSS feed I wrote, the first 2 shows I listened to, This Week in Tech with Leo Laporte, a Hall of Famer, and CNET's podcast of indeterminate length, Buzz Out Loud. Delighted to see Victoria Belmont on the list, and of course Molly Wood, of course, is also in the Hall of Fame as well. I only had my own podcast after coming to Podfest. It's all Podfest's fault, because I turn up in 2018. I'd been writing Pod News for 6 months. I turn up to Podfest in 2018. Everybody asked me, so James, what's your podcast? And I said, well, I don't really have one, I just write about it. And that apparently was not the right answer. So it's a great thrill to be in the Hall of Fame alongside so many people who've gone before me who I deeply respect. People like Tom Webster, like Evo Terra, Dave Jackson, Rob Walsh, Elsie Escobar, Leo Laporte, Adam Curry, and of course Todd Cochrane. And my fellow inductees as well today, and everyone else who I haven't mentioned, don't at me. I'm particularly thrilled that as of right now, I am the only Australian and the only British person to get into the Hall of Fame for the next 20 minutes. I'd also like to finally thank my wife for putting up with all of this travel and supporting me in this venture. She's the best. I'd like to thank the Pod News supporters who allow me to financially run this thing, and I'd like to thank everybody in the room for making such great podcasts and making it such a great industry to cover. Podcasting's strength is that it's something for your ears when your eyes are busy. Podcasts can be big or small. Podcasts can be for everyone or small groups of common interest. Podcasts can entertain. Podcasts can change lives. Whatever podcast you do, thank you and keep listening. Thanks so much.
All right, hey, we're going to be taking care of business as we do every week. We're going to talk about how to grow your business, no matter what it is you're doing. We can give you tips to move ahead. Hi, Dan Miller here. I've often been accused of being a dreamer, and I suspect that you are too. What do you do with your dreams? I want you to taste your dream. If you have a dream, you need to be able to taste it before you see it become a reality. When I was a kid growing up, and I wanted to have a really nice car, I spent time with friends who already had theirs. When I started dreaming of making more money, I started spending time with families who were making 10 times what my family was. When I wanted to be more of an influencer, increase my impact, I started going to conferences so I could spend time with people like Zig Ziglar and Brian Tracy, Jim Rohn, Mark Victor Hansen, and learn from them. I want you to taste your dream.
Good morning, Eagles and 48 Days community. As you have probably heard at this point, my father has graduated and passed over to a whole new adventure on January 21st, 2004 at 9:11 at night. This has been a very fast journey for our family. And in the span of 6 weeks, our world has completely shifted. And I wanted to just share where we are as a family. In this span of 6 weeks, things have happened so fast. And we've had the beautiful privilege and honor of walking Dad home together. And having all of you involved as well. The tributes on the tribute page, the comments on Caring Bridge, the donations on GoFundMe, the food that has been dropped off. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all you have done for our family and for the beautiful tributes that we were able to read out loud to Dad as well. I know there are so many. I'm even saving the posts, all the Facebook tributes that I have seen. We have so many beautiful things to go through of your stories of the light and the legacy that my father has left in us all, that is inspiring us to take action.
I'm proud to call you friend for 35 years. Man, oh man, oh man. We watched you grow into a fabulous grandpa and absolute leader of the 48 Days tribe. You and Joanne have transformed so many lives, and we're so honored to call you friend.
Just wanted to share a quick memory with you. I was at a conference and they said, go back to your room and call somebody that you admire. And you were the first person that popped into my mind. This is back in 2014. Went back to my room, gave you a call, you answered. And we talked for an hour. And it was a super cool experience, something I never forgot. You've been a good friend over the years, and I wish you many more, my friends. Look forward to the next time we get to shake hands and say hello. Take care.
Just watching you and Joanne interact with each other and love each other well and support each other was inspirational. It was the answer that I was looking for, and rebuilding myself personally and professionally into a better father and husband first before I concern myself with the professional application of my skill set has been transformational for me and for my family. This sign up here, the 5 Minutes with Dad logo, those books behind me over this side, none of that would have been possible if I didn't walk into that sanctuary in May of 2013. So thank you personally, professionally, for what you've done, what the example you've set for my family.
Hey Dan, it's your friend Pat Flynn here in San Diego, California. Thank you so much for all you've provided me in terms of inspiration and ideas and just friendship over the years. And quickly, I want to tell you about when I first started my blogging career, which has obviously blossomed into a lot more than just blogging. You were an instrumental part in helping to show me what was possible in terms of what you could offer an audience. Your community, by far, has been the most inspirational thing to me, how you've cultivated that community and turned it into a raving fan base that has just been with you through the years. That's something that I really admire and hope to do as I grow older, and I hope to have that kind of community as well. I heard about you from a number of different people before I even met you, and it just shows the kind of person who you are and the impact that you can have on a person's life. And you've already had an impact on mine, and I look forward to our friendship into the future.
Hey Dan, it's Cliff Ravenscraft here, and I got to just say, man, you have been one of the biggest blessings in my life. And I just don't know where I would be today if it were not for the influence of your content, your friendship, and also all the amazing people that you've told about me and my message and my brand over all of these years. Anyway, I'm incredibly blessed and enriched as a result of knowing you.
Now we can welcome Dave Ramsey to the stage.
Dan Miller was my good friend for almost 40 years. Dan was weird. He was weird in the best of ways. He stood out from the crowd. As a matter of fact, he just stood over beside the crowd and looked at them like my golden retriever used to look at me. Curious as to why people thought that the way they thought was such limiting thoughts sometimes. To him, the glass was always 3/4 full. He pretty much lived out he and I had a mutual friend that was an icon named Zig Ziglar, and Zig used to tell the story of the two little boys in the psychological experiment, and they took the little pessimist and they put him in a room full of toys, and they came back a few hours later, and the little pessimist was sitting in the corner of the toys crying. He said, "What's wrong?" He said, "Well, they're all going to break, and some of them are the wrong color." They took the little optimist and they put him in a room full of manure. And they came back in a few hours and he was throwing manure in the air, and they said, "What are you doing?" He said, "With all this manure, there has to be a pony in here somewhere." That was Dan. He didn't understand that there wasn't a pony in there. He always looking to help people get it figured out. They're it. And he really couldn't understand when someone came at it negatively, like, we all run into those people like, "Oh, it's so bad, and you don't understand, life is," the people who Eeyore is their spirit animal, right? In this life, there are takers and there are givers. And this room's pretty full of givers, people that add value to people's lives in a lot of different ways and a lot of different nuances. And Dan definitely added value. I met him in 1989. We were going to the same church together, and we'd both just gone broke. And we were both entrepreneurs, and we were both people that felt like the glass is 3/4 full. So we immediately hit it off, and our wives hit it off, which meant we had to hang out together. We printed up this little brochure, god-awful, ugly brochure, with me and him and this woman from Vanderbilt who was a professor who couldn't speak, but the three of us were going to become public speakers. That was a joke. We were awful. Because I hadn't done any voice training, and it pretty much sounded like Daryl and his other brother Daryl when I was on the stage. It was, y'all are here, hee-haw, right? And it's, oh man, it was bad. He always had that smile, that grin, like he knew some secret and he wasn't going to tell you. I started a little radio show in 1992, and it started getting some traction, and half of the money equation, of course, is the income side. I was getting to talk to people a lot about the outgo side, but I'd have him on because he was talking about career and possibilities and entrepreneurship and ways to make money to add to the equation, and he was a wildly popular guest. Plus, it was just two good guys having a great time cutting up with a microphone, and that's always compelling content. He printed up these little books to sell on the radio show when he was a guest. And man, one of the best branding things I've ever seen in my life. I don't know where he got the phrase, but 48 days to the work you love. Why not 47? 48 days. Something was magical about that got in people's psyches and made them believe they could do work that they loved, that there'd be no more Mondays. He printed up those little books and he was selling them for like $49. It was ridiculous. And the rest of us are selling a paperback book for $12, and Dan's getting $49 for this notebook that he did at Kinko's.
But the thing kept working and it kept helping people. And let me tell you what, if you change your life and you start making $200,000 a year and you used to make $10,000 a year, I think the $49 was a good investment. It was helping people, loving people well. That little book, they finally started printing it, got a publisher there in Nashville to print it. The publishing industry says that 48 Days has now done 250,000 copies, but I kind of know the whole story because there was a period of time where it was self-published and it didn't always get counted, and there was a lot of ways. It's a little over 500,000, and in the space that we're in, the self-improvement space, 8,000 books is what the typical book sells that is published today. Did about 500,000 in 48 days to the work you love. It was pretty incredible. We went through we decided he and I went through this 2-year men's Bible study together. We left that and we said, okay, we need to get a group of guys together that are all doing great things, because you become who you hang around with. We all know that, right? I don't want to hang around. I get to help people, lift people up all day. That's a good thing, but I need a group of guys around me that are doing things bigger than me, or at least at the level I'm doing it, so that I can have a band of brothers. It was a Bible study that lasted 14 years every Wednesday morning. We called it the Eagles group because eagles don't naturally flock, turkeys do. They don't gather in a group. We had to force these eagles into a group, but it was a fabulous group. It ran its course and we ended it after 14 years. But it changed his life and it changed my life because he took the idea and went and sold it. Yeah, now there's Eagles groups all over America because of Dan Miller. This was just a bunch of guys meeting at my office, and he realized how powerful the concept of the synergy was of that, and the importance of men speaking into each other's lives and lifting each other up on a weekly basis. He spent his life making sure people had a better life. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the ultimate in nobility. And then he graduated before me. To be absent from the body and present with the Lord is something I'm jealous of. Because I know when my friend Dan walked through the gates, Jesus met him there and said, "Well done, my good and faithful servant. Well done." Dan Miller was weird. And he was my good friend. So if I can get through it, I'm honored and I'm pleased to induct my good friend Dan Miller into the Podcast Hall of Fame. His family is going to join me on the stage. Please welcome his wife Joanne, his son Kevin, his son Jared, his son Ashley. Come on up, guys, and get this induction.
I was doing pretty well until Dave got teared up. Thank you all so much for all the love and all the amazing tributes you have given Dan Miller. I am so grateful for having had Dan as my spouse for almost 56 years. That's a long time. I learned so much from that man, and I'm so grateful. We still keep 48 Days alive. We still try to shine light on everyone out there, everybody we come in contact with. Daniel helped many, many people, hundreds and hundreds of people, write their first book. He gave them the confidence to do it. He gave them insight in how to do it. And his encouragement meant so much to so many people. I have people tell me all the time how he changed their lives. And I'm so proud of him. he would be so honored to receive this award. One of the things that is a quote out of his 48 Days to the Work You Love book is, next time you meet someone, try asking, how are you making the world a better place, rather than normally what people say, how do you do, how are you, I'm fine. How do you make this world a better place? Isn't that what we're supposed to all of us do? Make this world a better place than what it started out as? That was very important to Dan. He always ended up his he did podcasting for 17 years. He never missed a week. He loved it. He thrived in it. One of the things that he said at the end of his podcast each week was, make your life meaningful, purposeful, and profitable. Believe without a doubt that you can find or create the work you love. And he helped so many people do that. So many people who were frustrated because they might have been living out somebody else's dream and not their own. It's critical that we all find out, how are we gifted? What are our dreams, and how are we going to connect those dreams to reality? In my art, I am a writer and an artist, and I always talk to people about the fact that they have so much more inside them than they think they do. And that's exactly what Dan Miller felt. Everybody has so much more than what they think they do. Just act on it. Thank you so much for this award. Thank you for Podfest, for Nick Pavlidis, for the mastermind group. Many of you are here. We had a meetup this afternoon. There were so many people there, lots and lots of people, who said they came specifically for this. I thank you so much for that. It means a lot to me, to my family, all of us still trying to spread the light out to others and to help people find their dream, make it come true, and not just wait till one day. My daughter, Ashley, Sheila Davis, I don't even know for sure where Sheila is back here, Roxanne Boysick, they keep 48 Days alive so that Dan's spirit lives on, and that's what all of us try to do. Kevin is a podcaster who was the voice of Zig Ziglar for many years on the Zig Ziglar podcast. Jared, working with indigenous organizations and making his mark in the world, all of us striving to carry on the legacy of Dan Miller. And I thank every single one of you for helping us do that.
And now please welcome to the stage via video, Danielle Bolelli, History on Fire. Introducing our fourth 2026 inductee, Dan Carlin, who will accept via video.
Hello, my name is Daniele Bolelli. I'm the host of History on Fire podcast. Today, it's going to be my honor and pleasure to introduce one of the giants of podcasting. He started back in 2005, when most of us didn't even know what podcasts were. Anyone who's into history podcasts owes him a debt of gratitude, since he's one of the pioneers of the genre and one of its greatest exponents. For 20 years now, millions of people around the world have enjoyed his work. The man I'm speaking of is, of course, the great Dan Carlin, the host of Hardcore History. Plenty of people I know who could not care less about history because of the way history was taught to them in school have fallen in love with the subject after listening to Dan. His ability to bring his subjects to life through great storytelling is unparalleled. But if you can believe it, at least in my opinion, that's not even the most remarkable thing about him. Because as good as he is as a podcaster, he's even better as a human being. Rather than seeing other podcaster and history podcasters in specific as competition, time and time again, Dan has demonstrated willingness to just help all of us. So I truly can't think of anyone who's more deserving of a podcasting award than him. So without further ado, here is the man himself, Dan Carlin.
Hi, everyone. I'm sorry I couldn't be live with you in person at this event. I kept trying to think of what I wanted to say, and I kept descending into some sort of historical madness, going back into the history of podcasting, because we've been doing this so long that I still find it somewhat surreal that there is a podcasting Hall of Fame to be inducted into in the first place. And I'll take you back with me a little bit into those early days of podcasting. But let me get some important things out of the way at the beginning. First of all, I want to thank anyone at the Podcasting Hall of Fame who had anything to do with our being inducted into this institution. It's incredible. It's, as I said, surreal to remember where we were 20 years ago and to think all of this has cropped up since. And what's so funny is, I would go around telling people this was going to happen, but there's a big difference between asserting something and watching it grow up around you. I don't think anybody could say you saw exactly how it was going to turn out, but to watch, I don't know how many podcasts there are now, 1 million, I read somewhere, to watch how this has turned into the juggernaut it has with a front row seat, and to watch it every step of the way and be involved in the process. I don't feel like a lot of people get that chance in life very often, and I'm eternally grateful to the Podcasting Hall of Fame for recognizing our efforts. I want to thank my wife and my 2 children. They're the reason I get up in the morning. And they, of course, would have had every reason to doubt along the way what we were doing here. And instead, they supported me every step of the way. I hope everyone who's listening to me now gets that kind of support in their lives. It opens up all sorts of possibilities that wouldn't otherwise be available. I need to thank the fabulous Bill Barrett and the incomparable Nick Lay, our big voice and our artist, both of whom left us in the last couple of years. That's surreal, too. I also can confirm a long-running rumor here. The mythical/legendary producer of this program is indeed real. There is a Ben. His name is Ben Glossy, and we've been doing this together for more than 20 years, essentially with a handshake sort of an agreement. Sometimes in life, when you look back on it, you realize how fortunate you were to run into some of the people that you ran into, and how interesting it is when one's destiny becomes intertwined with someone else's. I also want to talk about podcasting and how it's changed since we started doing it. I remember that when I first started podcasting and someone would ask you what you did for a living at a cocktail party, when there were cocktail parties, that was a 45-minute conversation for me. And afterwards, I didn't feel like the people that asked me the initial question were any better informed than when they asked me. That's how different podcasting was a long time ago. And everybody thought we were nuts, and no one thought much of podcasting, and no one even knew how to do it in the early days. Like if you said, oh, I do a podcast, and they say, well, how do I listen to it? That was a big conversation and a big learning curve. And that's part of what makes all of this so interesting, is the infrastructure and the tools and the world and the foundational building blocks that have grown up in the 20 years we've been doing this that make podcasting the viable sort of broadcasting alternative that it is today. I mean, when we first started doing this, there was never any thought about making a living doing it. And then a couple of years after we started doing it, we thought, well, we've got to make some money if we're going to keep doing this. Well, how do we make money doing it? There was no infrastructure out there that made it easy to do that. So we took the PBS model. We came up with a slogan, $1 a show, it's all we ask. We threw ourselves on the mercy of the listeners, and 20 years later, we're still here, thanks to them. And they're the people that really deserve the most thanks from me, because without them, well, there is no hardcore history, there is no common sense, there is no hardcore history addendum, and whatever influence we've had on this industry, whatever you want to decide that is, wouldn't have existed either. So once again, it was the listeners to our program that made all of this possible and continue to do so to this day. So when I'm thinking of all the people I want to thank, and there's a lot of them, my mom was always backing me on this kind of stuff. I mean, suggesting that there's nothing your kid can't do. Well, That's exactly what you want your child to think, right? But without all these people, and without the people in podcasting, and without the listeners, none of this is here. And it's so many things that feel like they have to go right for this all to work out. And now looking at it and realizing it did work out, it's almost scary how many things had to fall into place to make that happen and what the odds were that it would. So I want to thank everybody who's helped me and Ben and Nick and Bill and my wife and my children and anyone else who feels like my program was of any value to them. I want to thank the listeners who kept us and it going and are the root of everything that makes podcasting what it is today, and who are responsible for its initial growth that's led us to where we are now. So thanks, everybody. Thanks to the Podcasting Hall of Fame. Thanks to my loved ones. And thanks to everyone out there who ever downloaded a podcast or supported a podcaster. Thanks, everybody. You've made my life. I couldn't be more grateful. And thank you for this wonderful honor.
To introduce our next inductee, please welcome Rob Walsh, an inductee in 2016, to bring Julie Samuels, formerly of the Electronic Frontier Foundation and current CEO of Tech NYC.
I'm honored to introduce our next inductee, Julie Samuels. Julie is the superhero that many podcasters do not know they should be thankful for. To be considered a superhero, however, you do need a supervillain. And in early 2013, said supervillain appeared in the podcasting community. It was a patent troll that went by the name of Personal Audio LLC. They had a patent they claimed covered podcasting and sued Adam Carolla and How Stuff Worked, and also sent shakedown letters to demanding money to Jesse Thorne, Mark Maron, Sam Cedar, and others. Most podcasters at that time had no idea how dire things looked. Personal Audio had just beat Apple in a suit over a patent for playlists. A jury in 2011 awarded them $8 million. So when Personal Audio came after podcasting, it was looking like maybe podcasting might get snuffed out before it really had a chance to grow. In this origin story, this is where Julie Samuels enters the picture, having one of the coolest titles ever. Staff Attorney, Mark Cuban Chair to Eliminate Stupid Patents with the Electronic Frontier Foundation. Julie started off talking to those contacted by the patent troll, and then on February 5th, 2013, Julie put up a post on the EFF site titled, "Podcasting Community Faces Patent Troll Threat. EFF Wants to Help." Quote, "Are you a podcaster? Have you received a letter from Personal Audio? We think there are many more of you out there than you realize. The EFF would like to understand how big the problem is and make sure you're all in touch with each other. We can also help you find counsel. If you've heard from Personal Audio, please send us an email," unquote. And on May 30th, 2013, came an email from Julie to me and some others. Quote, "The EFF is excited to announce its plans to challenge Personal Audio at the Patent Office. Here's the thing, we need your help. Please spread the word to your networks via podcast, Twitter, Facebook, etc. With your donations, we're confident we can take on this bad news patent," unquote. In a superhero movie, this would be where the villain was slain, but sadly, the legal system moves a little slower. It was not until April 2015 that patent was invalidated, and then 2017 before a federal circuit court affirmed the invalidation, and finally May 14th, 2018, until the Supreme Court denied the appeal and ended this fight. Folks, not all superheroes wear capes, but sometimes they do have a business card that says, "Staff Attorney, Mark Cuban, Chair to Eliminate Stupid Patents." To Julie Samuels, from all podcasters, thanks for saving podcasting, and welcome to the Podcast Hall of Fame.
Thank you so much. It's amazing to be here. I'm so grateful for all of you. It was so funny to hear my words that I emailed all those years ago. I have notes, and I'm going to say a couple quick things, but something that really I remember from those years, from 2013, from even earlier, that really sticks with me about the podcasting community that is coming out so clearly tonight is that it is such a community. And I remember that. I remember that so clearly from when we first heard about personal audio going after podcasters, and my phone started ringing. And they said, oh, well, you have to talk to my friend, or I know someone else. And it was immediate. And it was so obvious to me then that I had to help. And I should say, by the way, I obviously accept this on behalf of my colleagues at EFF. It's the best organization. I run into another amazing organization now too, but EFF.org is still out there fighting the good fight for digital freedom, for technology. You know, the case for podcasting, especially in 2013, is the idea that a nascent technology can just totally change the world, that can give voice to so many people maybe who didn't realize they could have that voice. That is literally why I went to work there. That's what has driven my entire career, and it is why I'm just so honored to be included in this and as part of this community. It's work I continue to do now at Tech NYC, the organization I run in New York. I really believe that technology is just a platform for the people who take advantage of it, and we live in the most amazing times where people who, again, didn't really have a voice before now do, and that's why I did this work, and that's why I'm just so honored to be here with all of you and to be a part of this community. I didn't even look at my notes. I hope I didn't forget anything. Thank you all so much for including me. This is truly, truly an honor. Thank you.
And now welcome to the stage, Byron Green from PRX, to introduce our 6th 2026 inductee, Carrie Hoffman, who will be accepting via video.
Hello, everybody. How are y'all tonight? That was weak. I'm from a Baptist church. I need y'all to give me a little bit more. How are y'all doing tonight? Thank you. I appreciate it. Hello, friends. My name is Dr. Byron Green College. As they mentioned, I am the Vice President for Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Accessibility at PRX. Yeah, give it up for that. I want to start this by giving you a little story about me before I tell you a little bit more about Carrie. I worked in academia for 13 years, and I left academia because, like many of you, I believed very deeply in my heart that I was an entrepreneur and I had a lot more to give to the world than inside of the walls of academia. I just graduated with my doctoral degree. I was planning to go to Paris, and then a little something called the pandemic happened, and my mom went to Paris without me. She deserved that graduation trip as much as I did, but alas. But I started my consultancy in 2020. I loved it. Like many of you, I got the bug. I was booking gigs. I was out there. I was making really fantastic money. And I met this guy, and I was like, maybe I want to get married. And I was like, I probably should be stable. I don't know, maybe. But I ran across this job description for a company called PRX. And they said their objective was to elevate the voices of marginalized people and really democratize podcasting. And I said, what does that mean? But it was an easy application on LinkedIn, and I was like, all right, sure, whatever. Like, I'll shoot my shot. Maybe I can get a consultancy out of it. I got the first interview. It was great, whatever. And made it through the interview process, and my last interview was with Carrie. And I said, look, before we do this, as a consultant, I spend 90% of my time talking to founders, CEOs, the whole lot, proving to them why I should be here. And she said, I'm gonna stop you. I know I need you. My job is to hire good people and get out of the way. Early in my career, I was Greenpeace, I was an activist, I was fighting for what was right. I was a kid that scaled the wall. This is in DC across from the Supreme Court. Yes, Carrie Hoffman scaling the administration building, dropping banners over the edge of the thing. I know what it takes to have a great team. And it's to hire great people and get out of their way and allow them to do the things. I believe you are that great person. You have what it takes to bring something to my team that I know we need, and I want to get out of your way. I was like, wow, that's dope. I don't believe you, but cool. I've worked for Carrie for the last 5 years, and she's never told me no. Not once. And it is that spirit of hiring great people and getting out of the way that really exhibits who Carrie is. That she wants to elevate incredible talent, but give them the structures that are going to make them great. A little bit about Carrie. Carrie's a wife, a mom, a sister. She's definitely a fan of personal responsibility, possibly a little too much. She is going to take credit for all of the bad stuff and give all of the great credit to everybody around her. So much that when she found out about this award, she was like, I can't, it's not me, PRX deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, not Carrie. It was me and our senior team and her kids and her husband that said, no, you deserve this award. Carrie believes in the team and strong coalitions. She believes in uplifting talented people, creating structures, and getting out of the way. She's currently the CEO of PRX, which is a nonprofit public media organization dedicated to strengthening public media through innovation, technology, talent, and storytelling. And for those of you that don't know, what better time to be in the fight for public media than now with a leader like Carrie Hoffman. Under her leadership, PRX has become one of the world's top podcasting, publishing, public radio distributors, partnering with independent creators and mission-aligned organizations to reach millions of listeners each month. Carrie's played a pivotal role in creation of Radiotopia, the Moth Radio Hour, Reveal, and led PRX's merger with Public Radio International. PRX distributes widely acclaimed shows, including This American Life, Snap Judgment, Latino USA. Carrie's work centers on empowering independent creators and building a more sustainable future. So it is my incredible honor to have this moment to celebrate Carrie, and she apologizes that she is not here, but a reminder that she believes in the power of you and the power of this coalition to build a great future. Thank you so much.
Hello, and thank you so much. I really appreciate the Podcast Hall of Fame. It's really terrific to be honored by an institution that puts such a high value on both legacy and innovation. And events like this remind us that podcasting didn't arrive just fully formed. It was built and shaped by many people really pushing things forward and experimenting. And people like my fellow honorees, who are folks I've admired for such a long time, and they have left such an imprint on our whole industry. And so thank you. I really appreciate all the work that you all do to move things forward. While this honor has my name on it, it is not mine alone. I am here because of PRX, an organization that has long championed independent producers, and we've believed that independent producers have the right to sophisticated technical infrastructure, the tools needed to become successful entrepreneurs, to engage in your audience that you build trust with. And, long before podcasting had market share or was the medium that it is today, PRX was making bets on people. People had something to say. And it was often before they had budgets or audience or even permission. And I have had the distinct honor over many years to work with some of the most creative people in audio, and they're telling stories from kitchen tables in prisons and classrooms and courtrooms, stories about science and design and music and just human resilience. And so I really want to thank the extraordinary staff of PRX, to the amazing producers we work with that trust us with their work and push us to be better partners every day, and also to this incredible podcasting community, which is really, I hope, the future of media. It is both authentic and rich with voices and perspectives and so much of what we need today. And so thank you to the Podcast Hall of Fame. Congratulations to all my honorees and to all of you who are building audiences episode by episode, story by story. Thank you so much.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Dave Jackson, a 2018 inductee, to introduce our 7th 2026 inductee, Mark Asquith.
Mark Asquith. The force is strong in this one. The fun thing about it is Mark, to me, is a little bit like Apple Corporation. They didn't invent the MP3 player. They just made it better. And I remember when Captivate came out, I was like, why in the world would anyone start another media host? We got Blueberry, we got Libsyn, we got Buzz. We're good. Why would anybody do that? And then I went and looked, and I saw how they completely flipped the business model upside down. And I was like, whoa. And the fun part of that was I was a direct competitor of Mark for 8 years doing that. And I would see him at events, and I'd take off my hat, and I'd go, hey, just for a second, like, as a podcaster, what you're doing over there is really cool. And as a competitor, you're on my last nerve. You see, most media hosts make money the smaller your audience is. There's more profit in that. Where Captivate, when you grew, they grew. And in the immortal words of Dave Ramsey, that's not an opinion, that's just math. I'd see him when the price of bandwidth went down. Did Mark pocket that money? No, he passed it on to his customers. And I went, wait, you can do that? You gotta be kidding me. It was amazing. And then they rolled out, Amy, the audio monetization and integration engine. It's a dynamic monetization tool that made most of us, again, go, wait, you can do that? When you showed the format painter, so you basically have a baked-in ad from like 2009, you would paint over it and go, that's dynamic. And I was like, what wizardry is this? It was amazing. But here's the thing. I talked to Kieran, who wanted to be here tonight, and he said, Mark always says that a rising tide lifts all boats. And he said, Mark didn't just believe that idea, he lived it. Because Mark isn't just a software founder. He's a podcaster. He's a teacher. He's a relentless advocate for creators owning their content, understanding their data, and building sustainable shows, not chasing any vanity metrics or, of course, the latest hype cycle. When the industry would get all aflutter with whatever was distracting us, he would kind of walk in like Yoda, spew some wisdom, and we'd all go, oh yeah, I never thought of it that way. It was amazing. And if you haven't noticed, Mark hasn't chimed in on the whole, what is a podcast? Because it's stupid. Instead, he focuses on two things: building tools that save podcasters time and building tools for podcasters that help them make money. It's called listening to your audience and give them what they want. It's a novel idea. He doesn't serve investors. He serves podcasters and, of course, his wife and child, not necessarily in that order, just for the record, but I've known him for a long time. He's an amazing man, and that is exactly why it truly is my honor and my privilege to induct the one and only Mark Asquith into the Podcast Hall of Fame.
Where do you put this? We'll put that there. Okay. It seems the trend is ignoring notes, but I will see what we do. Thank you, Dave. It transpires that no matter what we do in podcasting, we can never be as good on guitar as Dave, so we all need to just respect that. So thank you, man. It really means a lot coming from you. It's actually wild to be here. It's nuts. I've been coming to this type of event for such a long time, and I think I came to the Hall of Fame ceremony in 2015 when it was the distinguished competition over at Podcast Movement. And it's always been amazing to me because it's sort of weird, as Dave said. It's weirdness just abounds in podcasting, led by Dan and followed by many. And I think it's fascinating to believe that we're all here for podcasting. I'm going to tell you a couple of little stories about how I got into podcasting. I was not into podcasting. I don't like to talk too much. I've barely got a thing to say. But my good friend Gary, who's now the head of design at Captivate, this was 2012. He messaged me. It was sort of nerdy people. And we started talking about comic books, DC Comics. I'm a big Superman fan. And he said, dude, we should start a podcast. And I said, well, the main issue here is I don't live in my mum's basement and I like to wear pants. Why would I podcast? That sounds really like that's not a thing, is it? And he said, well, no, he was undeterred. He said, that's cool. I respect that and I appreciate that. However, I found the best bit of kit on the market and I want you to buy it right now. I said, okay, all right. It's called a blue snowball. Go get it. And it was awful. It was sucked. It was terrible. But we put it out there. And people listened, and it was weird because no one said you can't do that. And I come from a little mining town in Yorkshire, in England. I'm the second British guy. British person to be inducted, so thank you. And most people say you can't do those things. You can't do any of that stuff. You can't do any of this stuff. And so when I put that out there with Gary, with the blue snowball, and no one said, actually, you shouldn't be doing that. You should take it down. I was addicted. I was completely addicted. And as someone from that kind of background, that didn't really fit in too much, I thought maybe there's something in this. So I got on a plane and went out to NMX, which is where I met so many of the friends that I've got today. I've still got the green #podcaster t-shirt that you gave me. And probably for the first time in my entire life, I felt like I was part of the right people, like I'd found the people that I wanted to be with, and I found the friends and the family that have grown up around podcasting. And it's amazing because so many of them are sat here now. It's just stunning, and that's why I asked you, Dave, to do that introduction, so thank you. And the more I went into this and thought about it, the more I realized that is what it's all about. It's about the connections, it's about the people, it's about the relationships, and it's about going in there and respecting what has come before and thinking, how can I just add a little bit to this pile? And that's what we've always strived to do. So I want to say some thanks. Thanks to my beautiful wife, the best wife anyone could ask for, and the best mum. Sam, thank you you put up with some stuff. You put up with some stuff, some late nights, and the peril of living in the UK and having a US customer base does mean some late nights. So thank you so much. I love you, and I love Dot, and I love everything that we do. So thank you so much. Our Captivate team, our previous set of advisors, James, Daniel, Evo, Jordan, Chris, everyone, we're blessed with such a good team. And Byron mentioned it earlier. Just leave people that are good alone and let them do good stuff, because they want to turn up and do good stuff. And I'm blessed with a team and a set of advisors that were fantastic. Chris Krimitsos, the whole Podfest community, Jared and Dan, the podcast movement community, you're all fantastic. Chris actually came to my wedding. If anyone wants to know how he found Britain, given his excitement for everything, come and find me later. I've got some tales to tell you. But Chris, you're amazing, man. I love you to pieces. Thank you for coming to our wedding. Thank you for everything you do. And we all love and respect you. JLD and Kate, for the early days, we respect you, love you guys, and what you've done is amazing. And Little Boy is beautiful, and it's just amazing to see what has come out of what you've created as well. So thank you guys so much. Rob Walsh, Brian Conlon, Kathy Doyle, Colin Gray, Rob Greenlee, Jess and Elsie, all these people that have been around for such a long time. And of course, Dave, I'll mention you again, Paul Collig, and all these people. There's so many people that I can't thank enough, and you're all deep friends. But obviously, Daniel, yes, I said you on the advisors, and Daniel, thank you, I did. But there's only one person that I couldn't do this without. I'm the face guy. I'm the ugly one. I'm the one that talks too much. I'm the person that's got a little bit of a dodgy beard and sometimes can't decide what to do with the hair. I'm the person that traveled that much that I used to get random spot checked. And I only smuggled things into the US once, and it was an accident, I assure you. The other guy is like me, but he's smaller. He's about this big. He's a guy called Kieran. And he walked into our agency about 12, 13 years ago and completely lied about everything that he said he could do. But you know what? He's just like me, and I believed when he said that he could do what he was going to do. And he did. And he's flourished into not just a better man than anyone I can think of, myself included, but he's the unseen force behind Captivate. Everything that you said, Dave, applies to Kieran. I couldn't do anything without him. He truly is a brother to me, and he is Captivate. And so the most heartfelt thanks, the biggest thanks go out to Kieran. He's underappreciated. He doesn't do this stuff, but he's so important and so good. And now I'm going to tell you one final story. I'm probably going to get clapped off the stage by someone kicking me off. Sorry about that. But I've got to tell this story. This is the pinnacle of my career in podcasting so far. But a close second is, as an insecure kid from the north of England, walking into an industry that is already doing really well with forceful characters that are very, very good at what they do. It's quite intimidating. And it still feels a little insecure, even now, on this stage. But a lot of that insecurity disappeared in 2024. I went up an escalator at a hotel, and at the top of that escalator was a series of booths. And at one of those booths, someone was sat down, and they were selling podcast hosting to a brand new customer. And as we came up the escalator, we could hear the words echoing down. And the words went something like this. Yeah, you know, we've been in the industry for such a long time. You can host with us. And they were getting louder and louder as we went up the escalator. We believe in audio, we believe in people, we believe in relationships, and we believe in helping you. And we believe that all the best people in this industry are the people that believe the same thing. And as we got to the top of the escalator, that voice changed direction. And it said, oh, speaking of which, just like these two guys. And I turned around, and the person that was giving us such high praise, the person that I'd really, really respected for such a long time, that was now giving that respect back, and something that I felt was so important and so surprising and so earned. That person was Todd Cochrane. And that was the pinnacle, but also a representation of what podcasting is. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
And now let's welcome to the stage a 2025 inductee, Tom Webster, to introduce our 8th inductee of the evening, Paul Colligan.
I want to get one thing out of the way right off the bat. Paul is an incredibly deserving human to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. He is absolutely an OG of podcasting, an original podcaster. I don't know what the G stands for. He's written multiple books. He's launched countless successful podcasts for his clients. He's taken all of the learnings from all of those projects, and he's shared them with us. He's been really an incomparable educator for the last 20 years about this crazy thing that we do. But that's not why I was excited to induct him and why I really value him, because I don't normally like people, as many of you know. But I do rate Paul, and I'll tell you why. He was maybe the first person who welcomed me into this space. I don't think he knows that. I don't think I've ever said this. But about 20 years ago, I met Paul, and I met some of you in this room at the first podcasting conference I went to, which was in Ontario. Not the good one, but the one we have here in America. And it was called the Portable Media Expo. And I just thought that was a stupid name, right? I mean, newspapers are portable. But anyway, I was at the Portable Media Expo, and I was there to present some data, and I was really a fish out of water. Like, I didn't know a lot of people, right? And Paul absolutely said hi, welcomed me, and I learned some things. In the early part of my career, when I would present podcast data at conferences like this, I wasn't necessarily popular, you know. I would generally get two kinds of people. I would get skeptics. I would show a graph that says, 67% of podcast consumers feel this way. I would get somebody stand up and say, in my experience, that's not correct. And I would say, that's what the other 33% is for. I'd get those people, and then I would get other people that would just be like, what's that S stand for? That's called a 5. That's a 5. So I had a lot of that. But not Paul. Paul was curious. And I don't mean curious in the strange way, although he is and I do. I mean curious in that he is inquisitive. He wants to know what the truth is. He wants to test, he wants to find out. He is a curious person. And if you know me, about the most insulting thing I can say about anybody is that they're incurious. But what Paul was doing all of this time, and for the last 20 years, is testing and learning and iterating. He was understanding the one true fact about podcasting, which is that the audience is always moving. The audience never stays in one place. You cannot corral them into a pen and get them all to subscribe to your podcast on iTunes. You have to do what they are expecting. You have to follow them where they were going. You have to lead sometimes, but you have to challenge them without defeating them. And that requires feedback, that requires testing, that requires having a mind for science, which Paul as a marketer did, but also the artisanship of a craftsman. And to me, Paul really is emblematic, I think, of the finest of us in many ways. The art and the science together, all in the pursuit of pleasing an audience and making someone's day just a little bit better on this big blue ball. And with all of that said, I'm very, very honored to introduce Paul Colligan and induct him into the Hall of Fame. Thank you.
Yeah, it's at the age where I can't do the phone anymore. It's iPad time. Don't laugh, it'll happen to you. All right. Scroll, scroll, scroll. You know, I presenter mode, there we go. I do enjoy the irony of an event that tells podcasters to keep it around 5 minutes on the night that Dan Carlin gets inducted. It was May 2006. I was driving our blue Toyota Sienna with my 6-year-old daughter in the back. I realized less than halfway down the block that I had forgotten the iPod. I told her, Lindsay, no iPod. She asks, well, what are we going to listen to? I told her, radio. She asked, what's radio? Thought about that one for a bit, because I knew I'd be telling this story for a long time. Not necessarily at the Podcast Hall of Fame, but I digress. I told her the radio was basically an iPod, except someone else decided what we'd listen to. Pretty good. She asked me, as only a 6-year-old could, why would we do that? That moment changed my life forever. I basically knew then that listening to what we want, when we want, where we want, is our future. Let's jump ahead to less than a year ago. 19 years after that van ride, Caitlin, a 30-year-old doctoral student in political theology, launched to number 1 in her category at both Apple and Spotify. At the end of the day, she even found herself in the top 10 of Apple podcasts, sitting right next to, yes, Joe Rogan. No shenanigans, just solid content, an understanding of her audience, what she was trying to do with the show, and some smart, strategic marketing. There's still some room for a lot more stories like this one in podcasting. There's still so much room in podcasting. Welcome. Today, helping others with this what we want, when we want, where we want thing, it pays the bills, and that's good because I am completely unhireable. But I sure as heck didn't get here alone. Before I start the list of thank yous, forgive me for the ones that I've missed. There will be plenty, but they only gave me 5 minutes. For our dear clients, each one of you has your fantastic hero story. I wish I could tell them all. Thank you. I still can't believe we get paid to be your guide. Watching downloads in the millions with sales that match, 4-figure CPMs, attention in the traditional press, and jabs on late night TV keeps us on our toes and in constant bragging mode. It's truly fun to go to work. I have yet to have a case of the Mondays in this space. Merlin Mann, your mantra that they come for the content but they stay for the voice has performed better than any tech we've ever built or company we've ever partnered with. Thank you. Todd Cochrane, thank you for that book. Yeah, maybe one day Apple will start getting into this podcasting thing. Adam Curry, Dave Weiner, thank you for dreaming this all up. Thank you, Tim and Emil Berkman, the Podcast Brothers, for giving us that first event that Tom and I met at that not only made for this one and events to come, but fit in the hotel bar when we were done at the end of the day. Thank you, Dan Safkow, for reaching out to me at that event to tell me about a business you launched because of my podcast. There's power in our words. Thank you, Gary Leland, for being the podcast pickle. We love you, Gary. Thank you, Tom Webster, for being my favorite voice and reason in this space. And for that intro. I still remember that dual keynote moment and the integrity at which you took it on. Thank you, Dan Class, for making me laugh so deeply and for actually believing in Premium Cast. Who would have guessed we were 15 years too early? Joe Polish, dear friend, thank you for trusting us with 10X Talk. Once I figured out what podcasting was, you and Dan Sullivan were truly the dominoes that helped us make it a real business. The vinyl we sent of you, yes, we sent vinyl,
because everything sounds better in vinyl. It was still one of my prized possessions. Thank you, Lenore, Alexander, Helen, Mitchell, Heidi, Zach, Rose, Lindsay, and the rest of the team, past, present, and future. Thank you, Libson, and the Robs, and the Daves, and Elsie. You set the standard for passion-serving business long before it was ever about that sweet, sweet podcast money. Things may be changing, but your impact stays with us. Thank you, Heidi, for never questioning this crazy path and being okay with the reality that nobody will ever really understand what your husband does for a living. Despite the marketing hype, you are my podcast secret weapon, and I've never loved you more. Thank you, Almighty God, the ultimate creator. There's something truly divine in all of this that would be silly not to recognize. So I end with a short list of things we must deal with in this industry. Professional podcast promoters that just use bots to game the charts. Automated spam emails with ideal guests for your show, even though you don't do guests. Services that build your audience by giving you an expanded audience of bots. Schemes that make minimum required playback seconds qualify as an IAB download. Ad and view arbitrage at YouTube. Strategic decisions based on incomplete data and gut reactions. These hit and hurt all of us. For the inspiring enthusiast seeking a breakthrough to the Fortune 5 company looking for a tech partner. If it seems too good to be true, ask questions. Simple fact, simple reality, the shenanigans will continue as long as our most important metric is the download. I close with the challenge for the future. May the collective energy spent debating the true nature of podcasting, how the gatekeepers are going to push us all out, and how AI is going to kill it all, may it instead be spent on this, making this industry better for all of us. There are so many that would rather do the right thing than go for that sweet, sweet podcast money. Reach out to them, would you? We must do better. Let's look out for each other, okay? Because there is room for all of us. And I dare say, podcasting needs all of us. Thank you for this thing. It's amazing.
And now, via video, to introduce our 9th 2026 inductee, Sarah Van Mosel, we bring you Corey Boudelier, formerly of WNYC.
Hello, everyone. I'm Corey Boudelier from Connecticut Public Media, and it's my honor to introduce tonight's Podcasting Hall of Fame inductee, my former colleague and friend, Sarah Van Mosel. I worked with Sarah at New York Public Radio in the earliest days of podcasting, when the medium was driven more by passion than by infrastructure. As the first podcast sales hire, I was there when Sarah made the decision to bring dynamic ad insertion technology into podcasting. My role was to sell it, helping the market catch up to the future that she saw. She understood early on that if podcasting was going to scale, it needed real systems, real technology, and real business discipline behind it. Her leadership created the conditions that allowed podcasting to grow from a fragile experiment into a sustainable business, empowering creators and professionalizing the medium. And for all of the many trade shows and panels she moderated or participated in, Sarah wasn't just representing a roster of shows, she was representing an entire industry. Across roles at Acast, Market Ingenuity, Stitcher, iHeartMedia, and SiriusXM, Sarah helped build the foundation that podcasting still stands on today. Please join me in welcoming this year's inductee, Sarah Van Mosel.
Thank you, and hello to everyone in the room tonight from the snowy hills of Litchfield County, Connecticut. I'm sorry I couldn't be with you in sunny Florida today. I want to start by thanking my dear friend and former colleague, Corey Boudelier, for that generous introduction. Corey and I worked together at New York Public Radio in the earliest days of podcasting, and it was when none of us really knew what we were building yet. So I'm deeply grateful for his partnership and friendship at the very beginning of this journey. When I first found my way into podcasting, my motivation was actually very simple. I only wanted to work with Radiolab, to do everything in my power to help it live to publish another day. And Radiolab was doing something pretty extraordinary. It was stretching what audio could be. But like so many in early podcasting, it was fragile. And I wasn't driven by scale or disruption. I was driven by the belief that this work mattered and that if we could figure out how to support it sustainably, it deserved to keep going. And that belief really became my North Star. It pushed me to rally teams and ask a very unglamorous question. How do we make this work economically without compromising the art? At the time, ads were still baked into audio files and campaigns were static. Revenue was limited. But if podcasting was going to survive and if shows like Radiolab were going to thrive, we needed systems that could evolve alongside the storytelling. So that pursuit led us to crack something that would change the industry, dynamic ad insertion, and more specifically, the floating mid-roll break. Now, I know that sounds very nerdy, and it may sound technical, but the impact was really deeply human. Dynamic ad insertion made it possible for campaigns to scale responsibly and for creators to earn sustainable revenue. And it helped podcasting grow from a passion project to a profession for thousands and thousands of people. That work was never about technology alone. It was about protecting the conditions that let great storytelling exist. So I've been incredibly lucky to work alongside creators who shaped how we listen, like Freakonomics and Hidden Brain, 99% Invisible and The Moth, WTF with Mark Maron. I've supported shows like Criminal, and yes, I named my dog Phoebe Judge. I've guided the teams behind My Favorite Murder and Smartless, and I've worked with voices that reach millions, including Conan O'Brien, Jay Shetty, Mel Robbins, and Ashley Flowers. Each of them reinforced the same truth. Podcasting works best when creators are trusted, when audiences are respected, and when the business serves the work, not the other way around. My roots are obviously in public media, and I thrived in independent media, and that combination shaped how I approach everything, with a belief in service, collaboration, creative independence. The thing I'm most proud of isn't a deal or a title. It's the teams, it's the people that showed up every day believing this medium could be really special. Now, I want to acknowledge a fellow inductee tonight, Carrie Hoffman, CEO of PRX. Carrie, it was a privilege to work alongside you. Your innovation, clarity, and most importantly, your integrity have been a constant in this industry, even as it's changed all around us in so many myriad ways. And as I look at podcasting today, my hope and my warning is this. Platforms borrow audiences, but creators earn them. Reach can be rented, but trust can't. Platforms may deliver scale, but they can also change the rules overnight. We've seen it happen far too many times. When creators hand over their futures to systems they don't control, they aren't building businesses, they're borrowing time. The creators who will endure are the ones who treat their audiences as a relationship, not a metric. Formats will shift, algorithms will change, business models will come and go, but trust, earned episode by episode, that compounds over time. So podcasting, it didn't begin as a platform strategy. It began as an act of independence. And as Radiolab reminds us in their episode, The Unnatural Voice, while AI can mimic voices and rearrange words, it can't replace intention or curiosity. So podcasting may be reshaped by technology, but its power will always come from something innately human. So thank you to the teams, the creators, the listeners, and the fellow builders who made this journey possible. I'm incredibly grateful to have had a seat at the table with all of you. Thank you.
And now via video, please welcome Tom Merritt to introduce our 10th inductee, Veronica Belmont, who will be accepting via video.
Hello, I'm Tom Merritt, podcaster and coffee achiever, and I have the honor of being asked to introduce Podcast Hall of Fame inductee, Veronica Belmont. Veronica and I have podcasted together for more than 20 years, first with CNET's Buzz Out Loud in 2005, and since 2007 as co-hosts of the science fiction and fantasy book club podcast Sword and Laser. Now, let me say the obvious things. Veronica is smart, engaging, quick-witted. She also does not shy away from challenging in pursuit of uncovering new ways to think and new ways to explain. It's a superpower she has. And I never tire of having conversations with Veronica because I never know exactly where they're going to go, but I always know I'll enjoy the destination, and I always do. I always come away with a new way of seeing things. And she's incredibly funny. If you don't know that, she is one of the funniest people I know. She is perfectly deserving of this honor, and if you don't already know her work, I highly recommend getting to know it. Introducing Podcast Hall of Famer, Veronica Belmont.
Hey everyone, this is an incredible honor. Thank you. I am so humbled to be counted alongside so many past recipients who are not only peers, but also people I've been quietly trying to impress for most of my career. I am sadly not able to join you in Orlando, but it did feel very on brand to be able to sit in my home podcasting studio, talk into a microphone, stare out into the void, and pretend that nobody's listening. 2026 marks my 21st year of podcasting, which, even as I say it now, sounds honestly a little fake. I went to college for audio radio production, which meant that I was hoping that I would get a job in TV production, film production, maybe studio recording. I did not expect myself to go into a career that I would still be having trouble explaining to my parents. So first and foremost, thank you to Tom Merritt and Molly Wood, my first co-hosts at CNET, who gave the opportunity to a lowly intern to have a very outsized voice on the podcast. And also to Mark Larkin, our boss, who gave me an opportunity to not do just that, but also jump into other podcasts and video shows and basically gave me my start in this career. I also want to thank the many co-hosts and producers that I've worked with throughout the years. People like Roger Chang, Patrick Norton, Serafina Kernberger, Brian Brushwood, Justin Robert Young, Felicia Day, Kyla Caseby, Bonnie Burton, Dominique Girard. This would be the part where the orchestra would start playing me off, and James Kim, of course. It's a long and wonderful list. Thank you to anyone I forgot. You're all amazing. And a very special thank you to my husband, Ryan Block. We did try to do a podcast once together. It went horribly wrong. We're very different people with very different opinions about how things should be done in a podcast setting. But you are wonderful. You have supported me through the ambitious projects, the time-consuming ones, the, questionable ones. And for that, thank you and I love you. Podcasting has come such an incredibly long way. It has grown so much in terms of relevancy and audience size. I don't think there's a single news outlet or brand that has not tried their hand at it throughout the years. And all of that hard work is really reflected in the incredible things that my fellow nominees have done. So I am incredibly honored and grateful to be counted among you. I am deeply, deeply grateful for this incredible journey, and I have made so many wonderful friends all across the world because of what podcasting has done for us. Thank you.
We now take a moment to honor and remember Todd Cochrane, a 2015 Podcast Hall of Fame inductee who tragically passed last year.
So tell us about your podcasting journey. Like, how did you get involved in podcasting?
Really, it's probably too long to tell today, but really, as in a hotel room after suffering a injury and was in the Navy taking care of airplanes, and I heard about podcasting in October 2004 as a failed blogger, and decided, well, I like to talk, so I started a tech show which led to many things. It was amazing. So I was one of the first 50 or so podcasters in the very, very beginning. Yeah, you just never know where the road is going to lead. And, really, I think back, and if I had not suffered the injury that I had and was basically doing like supplemental duty in another location, I'd never heard of podcasting. I would still be working on airplanes. In the early days of podcasting, it was 90% men. But now you look at this event today, and I fair say I think there's more women here than men. So and we know from a as a hosting provider, we're seeing more ladies starting shows than anything. So the ladies are outpacing men today in creating content, becoming podcasters.
Yeah.
But I think it's the industry has completely morphed. But in the early days, it was pretty much men. But
Geeky guys.
Geeky guys, because you had to be geeky.
Yes.
But the most important thing to me is we're just looking at the people walking around behind the cameras. There's a huge diversity here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I just talked to someone yesterday from South Africa that come in for Podfest, and that's the thing I'm most proud of, is that we've given a voice to really anyone that wants to tell a story. I go back to a year and a half ago. I went to Saudi Arabia to not a Podfest, but a podcast conference, and you would think a podcast conference in Saudi Arabia? Wow, why? Well, the country is 63% of the people are 32 and under. And so the government's made large changes there to allow creators to have a voice and be able to do video. And so it's not what everyone would think of Saudi Arabia. And at that event, the women that were there outpaced men by 2-1 at least. And what I was in sessions where I would talk in front of a whole group or have just basically conversations, they wanted to tell their story. Some of those stories were maybe tragic in a sense, or inspirational about how they were able, because of changes in the country, to be able to start a business, hire women, become entrepreneurs. So it really runs the gambit from A to Z. And as I tell people they're thinking about doing a podcast, follow your passion. Don't chase a topic. Follow what you're passionate. And it's better content, because if you can talk about something every day, nonstop, that's what your podcast should be about.
To remember their friend and ours, please bring up Rob Greenlee and Mike Dell, VP of Blueberry Podcasting.
Well, thank you for being with us for over 2 hours here. And this is a tough part of the ceremony for Mike and I and many of you out here in the audience. We miss Todd tremendously. We lost Todd last September, and it was a very sudden type of situation. And I've been doing a podcast called The New Media Show with Todd for the last 13 years, most every week. So it was a big impact on me and my life, because I had actually first started working with Todd back in 2005. So we partnered up with a lot of different activities around podcasting, and then he put out the first podcast book that was ever published. And if you go back and get that book, it will actually be really a testament to the very earliest parts of the podcasting space. It's really a historical document now. And it's just really a testament to Todd. Todd was a true builder, beyond just a podcaster. You know, he came out of the Navy and was a geek. I mean, that's Todd. I mean, Todd was a tinkerer. He was a guy that just loved technology and used it in everything in his life, and it was such a huge part of his life, and it was so important. But on top of that, you know, he wasn't just a commentator to the industry like you saw in the video here, but a guy that really rolled up his sleeves and really helped make the medium work, right? And there's so many examples of that I could be up here for an hour just telling stories about how Todd impacted the medium from
Everybody's
metrics.
got the stories.
Right, from metrics to fighting for independent podcasters. You know, he did that for 20 years. You know, Todd showed up every week, educating, pushing standards, making sure that the infrastructure worked. He really pioneered monetization too, around host reads and things like that. He was very early. He had I think the first podcast network, the Tech Podcast Network, and his advocacy for independent podcasting just couldn't have been any stronger. I mean, it was just remarkable at times. So he was really just those of us that knew him. It was such a amazing experience. I mean, he was such a personality. He really enjoyed spending time with other podcasters, and he really enjoyed being at podcasting conferences like Podfest, because he was so in touch with the independent podcasters and creators, but yet at the same time was geeking all over the place with everything. So we're gonna miss him a lot, and I want to hand it off to Mike Dell to talk about Todd as well, because Mike spent a lot of years with Todd, working with him every day.
Yeah, I met Todd at that, I think it was the first or the second Ontario thing there, whatever they call it, Portable Media Expo or Podcast Expo, whatever. And I kind of hung on, and eventually he hired me. And he hated when I call him my boss, but he was more a friend, a mentor, a guide, you know, all that stuff. And, you know, at work, you know, the Zoom calls are not the same anymore, you know. Blueberry's doing great. We've got a good team. We've all had to step up to the plate to keep things moving, but it's all working out really well, and we really, really miss Todd. I mean, you know, we got Barry and Mackenzie and Dave in the audience from Blueberry, and you know, we come to these conferences, and Todd was always a fixture, you know. Yeah. And now, you know, putting up our booth, we're like, wow, you know, it's weird. It's just different. So anyway, we're definitely missing Todd. We're gonna continue to miss him, and at Blueberry here, we're gonna definitely try to keep his legend alive, I guess. You know, he really loved this, the Hall of Fame. He loved awards. He had an award show of his own. He would talk to a brand new podcaster, and he was just as excited to talk to that person that is just starting as though he was talking to somebody that has been in it 20 years. So anyway.
Yeah, he was friends with as many people as he could be with the people in the podcasting space, because he wanted to have a positive influence over the whole industry, and he really worked hard to accomplish that. And so tonight we honor Todd and his legacy, which continues in a lot of different ways out here with a lot of people that he touched. And so we'll miss him a lot. So thank you.
And as he would say, go podcasting. Yeah.
And now to close out the 2026 Podcast Hall of Fame, Welcome back your Master of Ceremonies, John Lee Dumas.
All right, this is it. This is the last part. You guys have been an incredibly gracious and incredibly patient audience, so thank you for that. And I will keep this short, I promise, and we're getting out of here. So what an unforgettable night. Getting to honor Ariel Nissenblatt, James Cridlin, Dan Carlin, Julie Samuels, Carrie Hoffman, Mark Asquith, Paul Colligan, Sarah Van Mosel, and Veronica Belmont. Of course, in memorial, Dan Miller, the late, great Todd Cochrane, whose pioneering spirit continues to inspire every podcaster who hits record. Let's, for the last time, give it up for our 2026 inductees. Let's hear it. We're going out. We're going out with a bang. To every inductee, to your families, your friends, your teams, thank you. This recognition might not have your name on it, but your impact is shared. No one builds something this powerful alone. A huge thank you again to Podfest for sponsoring, for hosting, for continuing to create a place where this community can continue to thrive. We have a deep appreciation to our event partners, Blueberry Podcasting, podnews.net, PPA, and Passion Struck Networks events. To the Podcast Hall of Fame team, the volunteers, the production crew, the stage team, and every unseen hand that made tonight seamless, and it was seamless, so thank you as well. The Hall of Fame exists to preserve podcasting and its story. And that story only matters because people listen, they learn, they laugh, they cry, and they connect to this through this incredible medium. So if you want to see the full list of the inductees, learn about eligibility, or get involved, visit podcasthall.com. Thank you for being a part of this special night. Travel safe, keep creating, and as I like to say, catch you on the flip side. Let's go.